Hello. Oh, what are you doing over there, Chewy?
You've switched this around. It's because I was in here first. I was on time and you were late.
Shut up, bro. I've been in here since 6 o'clock and I went upstairs. I went upstairs to wipe my bunghole, to put some TP on my bunghole. And I've come back down and you were here doing things, shuffling us around. I never knew what that was until recently from Beavis and Butthead. Put some TP on my bunghole. And
you didn't know what that was?
No, I put two and two together. But I have a question for you. The most important question of the day, and this is going to the chat as well. There won't be enough people here in the chat yet because it takes about 10 minutes for getting in. So this is like an exclusive. If you're in the chat already, I just had this debate upstairs with the missus. So if it's at its absolute optimum, so the best you can have, what fruit do you go to? So in other words, it is the best nectarine at its peak, the best in the world, or it's the best apple, or it's the best watermelon, or it's the best rockmelon, or it's the best green seedless grapes, whatever it is, think of it at its absolute peak tastiness and goodness. So they're all equal on that level. What do you go to?
Oh, well, first of all, your rockmelon can go in the trash.
Really?
So, yeah, no, rockmelon tasted nothing. Waste of time. I would have to say mango.
Oh, no.
Followed very closely by apricot.
I had an apricot tonight. That's what started the conversation. Actually, I was asked, do you like apricot?
Apricot is a good time.
That's what started the conversation tonight. I've got apricots in my fruit bowl, and I've got nectarines, and I've got bananas. And I walked past, and I said to Mrs., I struggle to walk past this fruit bowl at the moment without touching everything to see if they're ready to eat, because you want to get them before anyone else does. So you want to get them so they're just right and not too soft, not too hard. Like every time I walk past it, and she goes, nectarines or apricots? And I went, oh, sheesh. And I said, whoa. So what we're saying, therefore, is if they were both at their optimum, so they're both at the tastiest point, definitely of those two nectarines. Definitely.
I was just thinking, like, with all of the opinions that we have on the show, that this is the one issue that costs us listeners. Like, there'll be someone going, fucking apricots. No.
No, but I've also, then I asked the question, okay, so we're talking about at its optimum. Then I thought, what is the fruit at its optimum that I would have gravitate towards? What did you say again? Mango.
I love mangoes. I mean, they lose points for difficulty.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get into them.
Yeah.
And then
okay.
you've got that huge disc in the middle. But yeah, you know, apricots, that'll pip it.
Yeah. Apricot. Look, people are, like you're saying, people are already divided. Bloody apricots. What else have we got? Nectarines any day over apricots. I agree. Oh, good choice, Justine.
Oh.
Nashi pears. But
if you can guarantee me it's a good one, because
but that's what we're saying. No,
bad one is so disappointing.
No, Chewy, stop ruining my game. We're saying the piece of fruit is at its optimum. Yeah. It's the best piece of this fruit you could ever have. What would you pick? There's one thing about nashis though, and this is going to be the same for mine, which I haven't mentioned yet. Has to be refrigerated. So a nashi pear at its optimum refrigerated. Katie says raspberry. I feel like we're doing summer talkback now. So what's your favorite t-shirt?
Just for me, issues on BHN.
For me, it is watermelon. But again, out of the fridge. Got to be in the fridge. So it's chilled watermelon at its optimum.
Lovely watermelon. Did you see the what was it, $147 Invercargill watermelon?
No, I didn't see it. I believe it.
At what point when you're running a supermarket and you're buying it, you're like, yeah, whack $140 on that. That'll go.
So I'm sorry about this. This is feeling very authoritarian of me, but I'm just going to do that
there we
because
go.
now it feels right again. So tonight we're going to have, I want to have a look at the Oscars. Chewy, I know that you're a massive film buff, and yes, this is the Big Hairy News show, but it doesn't always necessarily mean it has to be, kind of hard news. So we want to have a look at the Oscars. I want to have a look at what's been nominated. We'll do that maybe in the middle of the show, because we're also going to talk about, if you're with us last night, you will understand and you will have heard what we talked about when Christopher Luxon seemed to say the exact opposite things. Are you laughing at the chat?
Yes, absolutely. Can I please put this one up? It's amazing.
Give me 10 seconds. He said the complete opposite thing within 30 seconds of himself. I feel like he's kind of doing that again. So we'll get to that towards the second half of the show. Chewy, go.
Right. Last comment about fruit, I swear, but this is too funny to let it go. Time to fly here. It's got, I once saw Howard Morrison, so points for a New Zealand anecdote with a famous person in it, exit a fruit and veg, throw the apricot on the ground, stomp on it, and swear loudly at the owners before storming off. Amazing.
Wow. Good one.
I love that.
I feel like I need to get rid of my chewing gum because I'm chewing in the corner. So that's coming up a bit later on. We are also going to have a look at inflation because that's come out today. And good news, everybody. I've got videos that I'm not streaming tonight. I've downloaded them early. I've spent some extra time doing it when I was here by myself and there was no Chewy doing any work. And so we hopefully will have no buffering tonight. If something happens tonight with the videos, then we got some serious problems. Right. So everything else well? Everything else going well?
Yeah, man.
It's
been a bloody beautiful day down here.
Cracker. A cracker of a day.
Really, really good. Got some yard work done. Took the dog for a swim.
A swim? Whereabouts?
Oh, just in the creek down the gully behind us. She's small and dense.
Is it the pineapple track? Is it that way?
No, it's Fraser's Gully.
Right.
Just off Cockrow Valley.
Yeah, we took Nala out to, we go out to Long Beach fairly often.
That's good.
And walk that. And went out with my two at-home daughters, and we walked the beach, and one of them brought a friend and they went swimming, and it was the first time we've seen the little ginger bitch actually enjoy the water. As a puppy, she was kind of a bit wary of it, and she was straight in there, out to them, swimming around. It was really interesting to see it. I know they take her down to a local park here that's got a creek running through it, and she always comes back saturated. So she's not really a water dog like a Labrador or anything, but obviously there's something about border collies where they sort of enjoy the water as well. Yeah, Paul, to answer your question, and I know many people are annoyed at me for not having the dog cam up and running. I've set up a new studio for a new project that I'm doing, and because I've set it up in a different way, the dog cam can't get down there at the moment. But I'll tell you something. I actually took this tonight. I should have sent it to myself. There is the little meat axe tonight who was looking at me all goo eye. Can you see that?
He's a substitute.
On the desk. Yeah.
We're a substitute dog.
So yeah. So I'm going to reorganize things, and at the moment the camera's up there, the dog camera, that looks down across the thing, and because the desk has been moved, it can't see the corner. So I'll figure something out, because I know that half of you only turn up to see Nala. Anyway, hey, let's talk inflation, shall we? Because there was an announcement made today that we are still at 7.2%. Now, on one hand, you got to kind of say it's a good announcement, because there was a projection it would go to 7.5 and it didn't. But on the other hand, and I've never understood this saying, it's kind of like kissing your sister. I've never really understood that, because that would be revolting and wrong and just feel ish. But they use that saying to mean it's kind of like, meh.
You still got a kiss. Yeah, it's a weird one. Aged well.
So let's start with the actual story. This is from News Hub tonight, talking about the pandemic of inflation.
Well, the new Prime Minister has dubbed it the pandemic of inflation. And while figures out today show the rise has stalled, that doesn't make it any less painful. The Consumer Price Index, which measures the cost of living, shows the annual inflation to December was 7.2%. That is the same as the previous quarter. The biggest increase was the cost of housing, with rents up 4.4% and the cost to build a house up 14% in a year. Food is also driving up inflation, specifically meat, vegetables and ready-to-eat food. The tiny bit of good news, the 7.2% figure is a shade lower than the Reserve Bank's prediction of 7.5%.
So if we were to be fair, right, how would we address this, Chewy? Is this a net win for the government because it was expected to go up? Is this a net loss for the government because they would wanted it to go down? Or is it just a treading water. If it had gone up, you'd been assured that the first headline from National would have been see.
Yeah.
If it had gone down, actually, mind you, if it had gone down, you would have heard nothing. And because it stayed the same, you've kind of heard nothing. So that kind of means if it had gone up, it would have been bad. It seems like if it had stayed the same, which it has all gone down, it would have been a net positive for Labour. What do you think?
I think that on the inflation issue, I think Nationals kind of shot their wad here because, well,
family show.
They've splooshed it all up against the wall, spunked it off into nothing because they have no control over this. It is international inflation. It is not the government just printing money willy-nilly. It is external factors. It's a war in Europe. It's fuel. It's wheat.
Yeah.
It's all of these other external factors that the government, as we've been saying, has nothing.
No. But we know that. But that's not what Luxon and National would be saying if it had gone up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I think we're at the peak.
Yes.
I think it's going to trend down, and it's going to pull this carpet that they're going, here's an issue we can ride all the way to the election. They're going to lose it. And all they've got is, it's food costs.
Yeah.
So transport, weather, supermarket duopoly, all of that sort of thing. So and Labour already have a plan for hopefully pulling the duopoly in line. But the proof will be further down the track for that. But if they can have a good hit at food prices, like this is the thing, when people go and do their weekly shop and they get the pain at the checkout, that will influence an election because that happens every week.
Yeah, and that's what Shane Jones said over the summer holidays when I interviewed him. It's like it's going to be based on what's in your wallet. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out in the economy, because if it trends down, what is the messaging? I was thinking about and forgive me for using a sporting analogy, Chewy. I say that like every show. But if you're playing a game of golf, right, 18 holes, 18 individual competitions, right? If you're a spectator and you're watching your favorite golfer and they have 14 holes, which are average to bad, but the last 4 holes are spectacular, how do you remember their round to be? Do you remember it to be an average to bad round? Or do you remember the last 4 holes, which are very good? In other words, will Labour or the government at the polls this time around be judged on the previous 2.5 years? Or if the next half year is good, will they be judged on that because it's the recent memory? I don't know the answer to that, but it makes me wonder.
I think if you say they have a bad 6 months, right?
Yeah.
If they have a bad 6 months, then you automatically draw a line from the bad 6 months to the bad things that you remember in the past.
Yeah.
And I also think the reverse is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
all right.
If they can get a lid on this, then they can Uno Reverso card this back in National's face and say, hey, you were saying that we're bad at the economy when inflation, which wasn't our fault, was going bad. Well, guess what? Inflation is going good. It's also not our fault that it is going good, but we're going to claim it because those are the rules that you've established.
And then what they're going to do is, obviously, and this is what happens with every political party, is they say that other side is doing bad, it's their fault, and then it flips around, they go, well, it is going good now, but it's nothing to do with them. So that'll be the message. Should it go good? All right. Absolutely. Let's have some more of this story from the accountant or history teacher, from the looks of things, who's presenting this.
Though, as political reporter Amelia Wade found out, that's no comfort for those doing it tough.
These days, it's pretty tough to keep the fridge stocked.
We've got a bit of fresh fruit this week. The supermarket was having some good sales, so that was nice.
Student Mark Hale Parkinson is having to cut back just to survive.
Look, respectfully to the student, I remember being a student and having to have Milo on toast because I had no money. We lived on
struggle meal.
We lived on Milo on toast, 2-minute noodles. I don't know. I mean, fair play to News Hub. The reason they're talking to these people is they live next to Government House. That's about the connection. But I don't know if talking to a student and the money they've got for food is necessarily indicative of how the general population's going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know.
Show us the beer fridge, and if that's full to the brim, no, enough's enough.
I was going to say, this is always the thing when you show someone like this, is someone will go through, frame by frame a fridge and then criticize the choices. There's a bloody pineapple in there. What the hell she's doing? You don't struggle and have a pineapple.
Look, that's what everyone's doing. Look, 3 bottles of wine, almond milk. So,
God, you bunch of bastards.
Anyway, let's keep going for the bunch of bastards.
You go and you're looking at eggs and you're like, oh, cool. Guess we'll just buy a 6-pack of eggs to get us by for the next 2 weeks instead of the normal 18-pack.
And across the road from her premier house, the official.
I was at Pack and Save today, and I bought 20 eggs for $8. They're the barn raised eggs. They're not the free range. They're the one step down, but they're not the cage because that's not legal anymore. So I know that we joked around about the egg apocalypse, and Jimmy Carr has given us the best T-shirt ever to be made about Humpty Dumpty of New Zealand, but this thing is not that bad. The egg thing is not that bad. I mean, 20 eggs for $8.45.
The shelves are full, but I've never struggled to get eggs during this whole thing.
No, so again, respectfully to the lovely students, maybe not very indicative. But see, this is because they live next to Government House. That's why they're on board. They're probably friends of the reporter, but maybe not indicative of your average household budget and shopping list.
Official residence of the person with the power to help.
Today, I think underline the importance of the commitment that I have made over the last few days to place the cost of living and the economic situation that we face as our number one priority as a government.
I find it incredibly cynical that here we are 6 months, 7 months out from an election, and all of a sudden we're miraculously going to focus on the economy. Give me a break.
Those numbers proving the cost of everything is stubbornly, scarily high, still up 7.2%.
People that are have double incomes that should be able to survive and manage a family are not surviving.
The price of food is eating up everyone's incomes.
Eating up.
Before inflation started soaring, in January 2020, a dozen eggs cost almost $4.50. Now they're almost $7. A litre of milk has gone up from about $3.60 to $4, and a kg of cheese from $9.70 to $14.40.
Now the cheese, fair call, right? That's been a significant increase, but I just want to be respectful because I'm not saying it's easy for people, but at the moment with those 3 things, you're looking at a difference of less than $5.50. You know, that's $7. Look, we've stopped buying cheese because it's expensive. So, and I said, we just bought 20 eggs for $8.45 literally today. So actually our 20 eggs are better value than the January 2012 eggs because that would be, I'd be about the same price, I guess, because it's not quite double and it's not quite double. I'm not saying it's not true that the cost of living is out there, but I do wonder maybe they don't have time to delve into it properly, but anyway.
I mean, these things that they've picked are interesting because that's not, none of those is a dramatic change.
Oh, cheeses. I think you'd have to say cheeses. Well, I mean, that's up 50%.
Cheeses, but that's been the case for years.
Yeah.
You know, gone are the days of the $5 1 kilo block of cheese.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that I see that fluctuation. I go, well, that's like the difference between a special and a non-special. You know, it's not this dramatic difference in change. Like the average shop, I think everybody would agree that it's gone up. Like I don't shop like most people. I tend to go to the supermarket often, but even I know that my quick visits have increased in price.
Yeah, for sure.
$15 every time I do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's other things that have affected it, and just highlighting these 3 things, I don't think really tells the story that we know exists.
Look, I think this is the thing, and this is what we want to try and do. Everyone acknowledges cost of food has gone up, but I'm concerned that potentially what the media is doing is portraying it as even worse than it is. That's the deal, right? I mean, because if you look at that milk, so 1 liter of milk has gone up 40 cents. I mean, who buys fucking 1 liter of milk? I mean, I know that 2 liters of milk now is $4 something at my local New World. You can get the whatever the cheaper brand is for $4 something for 2 liters. So who would buy a liter of milk for that rather than 2 liters of milk for under $5? So again, if you buy 2 liters of milk, that's better price, per liter than the January 2020 price. So, I'm just saying, I'm not like, if you're struggling, I mean, all of us are struggling more than we were, but you're struggling. I'm not belittling your struggle, but what I'm saying is that it is tougher, but it maybe is not quite as tough as what this article is pointing to.
Yeah.
And as people have been pointing out, although Chewy hates you for saying this, chat people, 3 bottles of wine. I often talk to my partner when we say about we're doing okay, because we occasionally get sushi at lunchtime. If you're buying sushi at lunchtime, you're doing okay. We threw. I sounds weird, but I threw away some crusts today rather than cook them. If you're throwing crusts away from your bread, you're doing okay. Bones of your ass. I know of people who are solo mums. They cook a stew and there'd be 1 chicken wing in there. That's bones of your ass. Most of us are kind of poorer by choice, meaning we're making choices because we want, rather than being stuck with what we have to. And I just want to be real. You guys have seen me. I often have a soft drink here or a Pepsi or whatever. I choose to do that. I don't need to do that. So I can't really complain about having no money if I'm spending money on, a Pepsi. Because
it annoys me that they've picked a student there, because there's a whole nother story there of like how hard is it to be a student, and it's hard, but it's not tied to inflation. It's tied to student allowance and a whole bunch of other things. There's a better story here that they're not getting because of their choice of who they interviewed. The other thing that I want to point out is, and this is a slight tangent, when they were talking to Luxon, did he know that Judith Collins was just behind him?
That was in Papakuta.
I wasn't just the only one that saw that, right?
You think that someone said her name 3 times and she appeared?
Yeah,
Newstalk ZB has a headline at the moment. You could have a look, Chewy, to see if I'm still right. That says something about Luxon says there's no need for the Māori seats. We're not covering that tonight. We may look at that tomorrow, and the video from that on the Newstalk ZB website is that press conference, and it does look a bit spooky, a bit slender man. Well, slender dumpy man, something. Anyway, let's finish off this story, shall we?
We need a little bit more focus on working families.
We're making haste, but I'm not going to be so hasty as to make things up on the fly.
Right now, he is the politician in the country that holds all of the power to deal with circumstances that are materially worse than when he was campaigning on these issues 20 years ago.
Hipkins says help will be on its way in a bit.
Hang on. Chloe Swarbrick is saying he said something 20 years ago. It's worse. What point is she making?
I missed that.
Chewy, you missed it? We'll play it again. Gosh, did you see 20 years ago what the price of fuel is versus what it is today? He's got all the power. It seems to be, respectfully to, Chloe, who seems to be a darling of many, it's not a particularly smart argument, in my opinion.
We need a little bit more focus on working families.
We're making haste, but I'm not going to be so hasty as to make things up on the fly.
Right now, he is the politician in the country that holds all of the power to deal with circumstances that are materially worse than when he was campaigning on these issues 20 years ago.
Hipkins says help.
Huh? Maybe she meant 20 months ago. Has that been 20 months since the election?
That needs a little bit of context, I think. Yeah.
Maybe she meant 20 months ago. Is that about what? No, because it's a 3-year cycle. So it'll be more like 30 months ago. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Will be on its way in a bit.
I will need to take a little bit of time to work through what our options are before I start speculating on what we may or may not do.
But waiting weeks or months is too long for those families who need help right now. Those families who are expecting something meaningful from the new Prime Minister. Amelia Wade, News Hub.
So first thing and most importantly, how do we feel about the video not lagging at any point?
That's perfect. Seamless. Great. Very professional.
Anyway.
Look, the thing is here that by rights, they should have something in the chamber ready to go. Like they were talking about the commissioner for supermarkets or whatever, right? That should be at least part of the answer. Yeah. Right? So why isn't that being front-footed?
Well, let's also
because I'm assuming that it hasn't changed, that the supermarkets are still making super profits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. let's also have a look at what it actually means. What is inflation and what is this? Is from stuff.co.nz today for those listening. Esther Taunton, what a great name. Here's how New Zealand's inflation compares to other countries. It's important to know, yeah? So if we have a look at the 7.2, this came out today. We go around the world. Australia is currently 7.8. Our Trans-Tasman cousins also got an inflation update on Wednesday. So that means that's a current number. That's not one from 6 months ago. United States is 6.5 after hitting a 40-year high of 9.1% in June. Inflation is slowing in the US according to its Bureau of Statistics. The annual rate slowed for a sixth straight month to 6.5 in December, the lowest since October 2021. The UK 10.5 after hitting 11.1 in October. Inflation has also recently slowed in the UK and now sits at it says 10.5 there, but Oh yeah, 10.5. Sorry. And the OECD average is 10.3. So
we're way under the average.
Of the 38 OECD countries, 18 had double-digit inflation, including Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, and Turkey, all above 20%. Food inflation rose from 15.3% in September to 16.1%, while energy inflation fell from 28.8 to 28.1% in the OECD as a whole. It was still above 10% in 35 countries and above 30% in 13 of them. Excluding food and energy, annual inflation was stable at 7.6% in October. So even excluding food and that, our 7.2 for everything is less than the OECD 7.6. Now, be very, very clear, right? I want to be very, very clear on this because I really, really want you to understand that even though we overtly and ardently come from the left on this in our opinions, we don't carry water for anyone. So 7.2 is not a good inflation rate for this country to be in. However, we also need to look at why it's there and how it is compared to the rest of the world. And with that question, the answer is not too bad. Comparably to the rest of the world, not too bad. Is it good enough? No. But compared to the rest of the world, not too bad. If you're living in the UK right now, you're at 10.5. If you're living in Australia right now, you're 7.8. In New Zealand, 7.2. We want better. But compared to the rest of the world being fair, not too bad. Shall we?
I was just your comment that the inflation rate is not good just made me want to check a couple of things.
Did it have anything to do with checking that swag hat of yours? Because
well, we're talking about the economy, so yeah. I figured that was appropriate. I have just Googled up this little map here.
Yep.
This
cool
graph. The inflation rate going back to the 60s.
Right.
So you'll see here, this is when my parents were buying a house at 17%.
Oh, is that inflation or is that interest rates?
That is inflation rate.
Inflation. Okay. Cool.
So you'll see here, basically from the 90s on, 1999 particularly low, pretty flat.
Yeah, but that's 3.94. So that's going to be what, last year, is it? The last financial year? Because obviously we're at 7.2 now, so it's increased from where that is.
Yeah, but yeah, so if you're looking at that,
so basically
15 down to 6.
Scroll to the left. Scroll to the left, scroll to the left, scroll, keep going. From about there, go back to the right with that first peak. From about there, which is when? So from 1967 through to the 1980s, it was similar to what it is now, or worse, similar to or worse than what it is now on average. From the 1980s to the year 2020, it was much better. And now we're in a cycle, or for whatever reason, international war, whatever it is, we're back up to the sort of 60s level before it went bananas through the 80s. So historically speaking, and it would be very easy to find out what governments were in charge then. And I'm sure if National's going to have their first or second term in that time period, certainly in the 80s, they were rolling around with some big spenders. They're going to say, well, that was if you were to challenge them on that today, they'd be saying, well, that was then, that's the era, and there was external forces at play. Much like today. Like today.
Absolutely. 88, that was a stock market crash, wasn't it?
Yeah. 87? I think 87, and then 88 was maybe 88, 87. No, I feel like 87 was the crash.
15.74 down to 6.38.
So what we want is a stock market crash, and it'll drop by 2/3 from the looks of things. Is that about right?
Excellent. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I always think it's important to put things in its context. And I mean, and had low low inflation, low interest rates for a spectacularly long period of time.
But when we do this, right, I want to be clear, if you're hurting, we're not saying, nah, no worries. Like I saw some messages coming in saying, we're a family with two kids and we're doing fine. That's cool. You might be. We don't want to diminish and dismiss other people who aren't, but we do want to keep it in context. Remember, your personal experiences, whether it's going well or not well, is typically anecdotal evidence, doesn't necessarily reflect the data. So that student's individual story, that's the big problem with news. One person's story, not doing well. Look at my poor fridge, I've only got 3 bottles of wine in it, may not necessarily reflect the data.
That's 3 almost empty bottles of wine that I can't bear to waste it.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, if we wanted a student anecdote, look, when I was a student, they started doing student allowances and student loans and stuff like that. Your allowance top up, and they didn't pay it for like 3 or 4 months. And the only thing that got my flat through it was the fact that one of my flatmates worked at Mainland, and we could get cheap cheese and pre-cooked sausages. And by God, if we didn't almost catch scurvy by the time the government sorted that out.
Yeah.
But you talk about your Milo on toast, struggle meals, literally living on 2-minute noodles and that sort of thing. We used to listen to the radio station, find out where they were doing a barbecue at like a business doing a promotion. We'd just go down there and eat sausages.
Mad Butcher's world famous barbecue down at
I killed for a Mad Butcher sausage. These were very much not them.
This is the thing that I think I would like to see within the media realm. The thing that would be fair is to take an average family with an average income and talk to them. That would give us a better indication of where society was at, rather than student McStudent a lot with 3 bottles of wine that can only now buy. I guarantee you those 6 eggs that she bought from her local New World because she doesn't want to go into the hut to go to Pack and Save were probably $5 for 6 of them, $5 or $6. And like I said, I just bought 20 for $8.45. So there's also that side of the conversation. But if the media would go to, a mum and dad's house with 2 kids with one full-time salary, one half-time salary, and talk to them, I think that would be a fairer, still not all encapsulating, but a fairer indication of what's actually happening in society.
Whenever we talk about food prices, I think send your junior reporter out to park up outside at Pack and Save until someone agrees to talk to you.
Yep.
That's a great way to do it. The other thing is I want to hear from food banks, because food banks, they will tell you how hard, whether donations are drying up because people can't afford food to donate, the type of people that are turning up to get food parcels because things are tight, the type of people that ordinarily wouldn't go to a food, that's the sort of indicators that would tell a story.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get some of the text right now, but I think what everyone should do that's watching us is right now you should all copy the link and you should put it on your social medias and you should say, come and join us. Because right now we're at about 50 lives. Let's see if we can get that up over 60 for the first time. So if you're watching us, just copy the URL from wherever you're watching it, be it on Facebook or YouTube, put it in your Twitter or your Facebook page or whatever, and say, come join us. We're about to talk some good shit. Speaking of, I don't understand this comment, but you have marked it. What do we mean?
Well, when you were talking about Nala, my dog Ilva walked into the room and I grabbed it, and I was like, "Oh, well, no, we've got a dog." And then Time to Fly made a very mean comment, and now my dog's sad. That's on you, man. Time to Fly, very mean.
That's an opossum. We don't call them opossums. It's an Australian thing, isn't it? No, it's a dog who suffers from thalidomide. We all know that, and that's the truth. Right. Sai says, latest out of the EU, fuel reserves are high due to warm winter. That has reduced fears of high demand from the EU, pushing up prices. This is good as it reduces chance of a recession.
That's a really interesting story too, right? So when Russia cut off fuel supplies to Europe when they charged into the Ukraine, the EU went, all right, shit, winter's coming. Buy all of the fuel, whatever it takes now. And at the same time, they told their citizens, well, it might be a tough winter, we've got to conserve fuel.
Yeah,
both of those things happened, everybody tightened their belts, and all of the fuel that they bought came in. So now they actually have a surplus and feels cheaper than it was.
Very good.
As well as the warm winter. So pat on the back to the EU. I think it was mainly Germany that hit the panic button there, but yeah.
It's a little bit like I went to the warehouse today and I bought 2 15-kilo bags of pedigree dog food because one 15-kilo bag, like one 3-kilo bag is $19. So it's over $6 a kilo. One 7-kilo bag is $35. That means it's $5 a kilo. One 15-kilo bag is $55, which means it's under $4 a kilo. But they had a special today, which was 2 for $100. So that means it's actually like $3.30 a kilo. It's a little bit the same as the fuel. It's just we're amassing lots of it to make the overall spend cheaper. Is that right?
But this is also a really good point about the economy of poverty, right?
Yeah, totally.
If you've got the ability to go, well, I'll put gas in the car to go to a cheaper supermarket and I'll buy in bulk, or I'll buy the specials, or I'll just stock up now. That's awesome. You're saving money. But what if you don't? What if the only thing is the slightly smaller, more expensive per unit bag is all you can afford? You know, it's almost an inbuilt tax on people that don't have ready.
We had this exact
cash.
conversation in the car as we were coming back, because those that don't have enough to get by on don't have the capacity to put $10 aside a week to get to that $100 mark. So yes, they spend $19 on a 3 kilo. Oh, actually, they don't. They get a cheaper brand. Like, you know, first world problems. They get a cheaper brand, and they pay more for it, and it's not as good for their dog. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. We had that exact conversation today.
Yeah.
Let's read some more. Stephen says, Hipkins first PR today communicates much better than Jacinda.
Ooh.
Okay. One to watch.
That's
this is the comment I think we read before. Justine says, a family of 2 adults and 5 kids. Holy moly. Single income, and we're doing fine. Just have to juggle the menu a bit depending on specials. Some weeks it's harder than others, but you get creative. Gary says 20 years ago, the level of inequality and injustice was less disgusting than it is now. Not difficult to grasp, really. Carl says global inflation is up, and we're a market-based economy. Unless we institute price ceilings, this isn't going down faster than the global average. I'm going to keep reading these, Chew. If you want to jump in, you button after I finish reading. In Australia, to help ease these cost of living pressures, Coles has announced it will drop the price of 150 products across supermarkets and online by between 10 and 40% until January. Disappeared. January 31st. The problem with that, respectfully to Coles, is, as we know, this happened in New Zealand. They purchased 3 months out.
Countdown did it.
Yeah, but they purchased so far out that to me, it's probably. I mean, it's great, but it's probably more of a like for a press release than actually out of the goodness of their heart, because they have their prices set for at least 3 months. Maybe in Australia it's for more because they're bigger outlets. So it's not them actually. They're not taking a cut for their customers. They've just negotiated cheaper deals and they're passing it on, probably at the same margin. Scott says media never mentioned the massive profits that banks, energy, supermarkets, etc. are getting at the moment. And Rob says getting from Thorndon to Kilburnie as a student, can they afford petrol, the bus? How much time would that trip soak up?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I think some really good points there. You know, I often have conversations with people about the poverty, the economics of poverty.
Yeah,
it's something students and beneficiaries know all too well.
Yeah, and it's also that thing, and like you've just said, you know, if you're wealthy, and not even if you're wealthy, if you have a means to be able to buy what you need, what you want rather than what you need, then you can go out and get $100. I mean, the dog food we bought today will probably last us 5 or 6 months, probably at least 4 to 6 months. And I mean, my personal financial details don't really matter, but we actually had some warehouse does this thing called purple dollars when you use their cards and you get a credit of dollars, and I had $70. So actually it only cost us $30 to do that. But that's because all the other stuff we'd spent with them over previous time. But anyway, the point still being, if you can afford $100 on 2 lots of dog food, then you can put that in your garage for 2 months and not have to worry about it. And if you can't afford it, then you spend $6 a kilo on that same stuff anyway.
I think that there's also something that creeps in, and it happened a little bit when we looked in this woman's fridge, and when you're talking about pets and stuff like that, is there is, I think, an almost innate thing of you make judgments on them for it. Like, well, if you can't afford dog food, then don't have a pet, don't have kids, or don't have a bottle of wine or a pineapple. You've got to live in crushing, soulless, black and white misery. There's a mango there too, I see. But yeah, it's like people have got to live, man. They've got to have some nice things sometimes.
Yeah. I'm always a bit the same when people talk. Back in the day, it used to be beneficiaries that smoke and have Sky TV. What the fuck? It's like, I mean, if that's how they want to spend their money, it's their money to spend, and so be it. So, I know that we're taking a bit of mix. Someone also said she could sell some jewelry.
She made herself look nice because the telly was coming to her house.
That could be like a block. That could be like a block of cheese. Oh my goodness, that's like. I remember when the egg apocalypse came through. I had like 24 eggs, and I thought about putting one of them on Trade Me for $1,000. Remember when Marmageddon happened, and there was like $500 tins of Marmite being sold on Trade Me?
Has anyone done that? Put their groceries on the conveyor, and when they read out the bill, you just quietly start sobbing and start taking off your necklace and watch and just pushing it towards the cashier. I don't think we're there yet.
Let's have a super quick look at the Oscars, only because I know that we love movies, and for those of you who are in the hunt in there, tell us what your thoughts are around these sorts of things. It seems that now I haven't seen Everything Everywhere. Have you seen that?
Oh my God, it's like my favorite movie of last year.
11 nominations for the Oscars. Banshees of Inisherin is amazing. Have you seen that yet? I love that. It's probably my favorite.
No, because I've heard really weird comments of it, and I feel like I need to be emotionally prepared to watch that movie.
Oh, it's great. It's very, very, very good. Part of it for me, though, is because of my ancestry. It's like, oh, this sounds like all my relations talking. So I am doubly invested. And I was surprised that All Quiet on the Western Front got nominated for Best Oscar. It's also nominated for Best International Film, which obviously it will win. I don't know how you can not win Best International Film if you're the only international film nominated for Best Film. Imagine if it didn't win, then you'd have to go.
Oh, that happens all the time, though.
No. If it's not the best international film and there's another international film that's better, then that other film would have to be nominated for best film.
No, I get where you're coming from. I'm just like, weird shit happens in the Oscars all the time.
Yeah, but that's because that's Netflix only. So there's a Netflix only All Quiet on the Western Front, unless it showed in some cinemas, but I don't think that did it in New Zealand. Avatar for Best Picture, I don't know about that. The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis is interesting. Everywhere, Everyone, Everything, Every Bout, All at Once. I've heard very mixed reviews on The Fabelmans, but I think it's probably giving Steven Spielberg a nod. I don't feel like Top Gun should be there. I really enjoy Top Gun, but Best Picture of the Year, really? I mean, maybe.
Well, I mean, what do you call best? Like, I never saw a bad comment about that movie.
Yeah,
lots of people enjoyed it. I mean, we kind of had this perception of the Oscars that it's always high art that wins. And this, you look at the stuff that they've given Best Picture to. Sometimes it's not high art.
Banshees with Best Directors in there. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is in there. I'll have to watch that this weekend, I think. Elvis for Best Lead Actor, he'll win. He won the Golden Globe. He'll win the Oscar for that. Although it would be really interesting. See, Colin Farrell in Banshees is amazing. Really, really, really. You know the storyline for Banshees, eh?
I've seen it sketched out. But so basically,
for people who don't know, and I won't give the plot summary out, but if you watch the promo, you'll see this. Is there are two Irish men who live in a village who are friends. For some reason, one of them says, "I don't want to be your friend anymore." The other one's like, "Why don't you want to be my friend anymore? What's going on? Why don't you want to be my friend anymore?" And he basically says to him, "If you talk to me again, I'm going to cut one of my fingers off." And he's like the village fiddle player. And so, of course, the whole villagers then have a vested interest in making sure that Colin Farrell's character doesn't talk to his ex-friend, or else he'll have cut his fingers off and have no fingers left to play the fiddle in the pub. That's the story, really, and it's a really, really good watch. I haven't seen The Whale yet. I really want to see The Whale, and it's really interesting to see Brendan Fraser come back He's been in the wilderness for a long time. I kind of feel a bit like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. You know, John Travolta was in the wilderness for a long time and then came back. Wondering if this is Brendan Fraser's.
I don't know if you've seen his Golden Globes speech, but gave me the wet eyes.
Nice.
I'd love to see Bill Nye win something. I'm not familiar with that film, but
the cable guy. Bill Nye, the science guy.
No.
But I mean, it's all quiet on the Western Front. Best adapted. Have you seen this on Netflix yet? Glass Onion, Knives Out mystery.
Yep.
People watched it in the house when I was working, so I haven't seen it.
I really liked it. Not as good as the first one, though.
Yep. Okay,
in my opinion.
Cool. Banshees for that. Cinematography will be, I think, anything to do with technical will go to Avatar. You know, I just take everything.
Cinematography is. I don't know. Like the things they did for Top Gun. I would want them up there, but I mean, it's not. They're looking for arty cinematography there. I guess
there was one that I wanted to ask. I'll ask you about as the last sort of thing. Best production design. Avatar's in there. Best production design. I think about a physical building. Avatar's in there, which 99% would have been green screen. I'm interested as to how that works.
Well, I mean, the digital environments are still designed.
But it's nothing like All Quiet on the Western Front where they're building trenches and having physical buildings. There are physical sets in Avatar, but it's certainly not the majority.
But I mean, movies these days, pretty much all of the background is going to be green screened anyway. So, I mean, when I think of production design, you know, I don't see why a mainly digital film would be excused from that.
Yeah. All right. And there's a Kiwi who's been nominated. Forgive me, I haven't got the article up. I think in this one, for best visual effects for Avatar. I think Richard Bahan is a Kiwi, so he's in there. They'll win that. Any visual effects.
That's all wetter. So
yeah. And the other one I wanted to bring attention to, if you haven't seen it yet, is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Amazing. Amazing. That will win best animated feature, and it's a romping good watch. If you haven't seen it, it's not actually Pinocchio, it's actually his interpretation of Pinocchio, so there's some differences in it, and it's really, really cool. It's a really, really good watch. All right, I rushed through that a bit because I realized we were already getting late, because unlike you and me, we were sort of just talking too much. I know it's a bit weird.
But no, definitely for yourself, Pat, and for everybody that hasn't seen it, Everything Everywhere All at Once is. I had a big grin on my face all the way through that movie. It's quite funny though. I have noticed something. Of course, I have ADD. I know a lot of people that have ADD. They all love that movie. Absolutely following all the strands of the storyline, that sort of thing. The couple of people that haven't liked it, that found it quite intense and there's too much going on, they don't have ADD. So maybe it's just, yeah, it was built for people like me.
All right. Okay, let's get into, I guess it's later in the show than I intended, but let's get into sort of almost the feature story of the day, which is old Humpty Dumpty talking a little bit about co-governance and also the Māori Health Authority. Now, the reason we want to have a look at this is it's another example. Apparently, he had a very bad run-in on RNZ this morning. I haven't heard that. So we're going to stick here. And as much as it sticks in our craw, you got to give credit where credit's due. Mr. Ryan Bridge, did very well this morning. It was a very good interview. And he really did kind of hold him to account on some level. So let's have a look at, and we've got a few things that we're going to stop on the way through this and just speak to it. But Christopher Luxon talking on the AM show this morning about co-governance and how it works, how co-governance should work.
That yesterday at Ratana. Chris Hipkins hit back and said on co-governance, he said there's a particular park in the Hutt Valley in his electorate, Te Whiti Park, which has long been managed by co-governance between Māori and between the government or the local council. He says no complaints, great facilities, in fact, better facilities than there were before. It's working well. Do you have a problem with that?
No. So really the issue is this, which is that if you think about co-management or co-governance as it was previously used, it was in the context always of local iwi working with local government to manage local natural resources in the context of treaty settlements.
So that's the first thing. The line of demarcation that he's trying to draw is it's about local, local, local. Now, one could argue straight away that's a particularly unbusiness model-like way to run anything, to have smaller entities all being funded and costing to look after things rather than a larger conglomerate. It would be like Air New Zealand, for example, having an Auckland base and a Wellington base and a Dunedin base and a Christchurch base and a Tauranga base, all being funded independently and operate independently. But that's not the best way on a business model, and only using that because they're his terms, to get the best bang for your buck. It is to centralize things. But the argument here from the man who's talking about business is, as long as it's local and as long as it's got to do with natural resources, we're okay with it. All right, we'll keep going.
And by and large, those arrangements have worked incredibly well because Māori have fantastic contributions to make and into decision making around those kind of assets. What we're talking here, though, is over the last few years, the government has done something different, which is to start to take that word co-governance and put it into a completely new and different context, which is centralised bureaucracy for the delivery of public services. And that's been my frustration. And as I've said to the Prime Minister before, is, hey, listen, on a constitutional issue like co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders, health, education, justice systems, critical infrastructure like Three Waters, that's a different case. And from my point of view, that's what I was saying yesterday.
Okay.
So co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders. That's the quote. I wrote that down. Co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders. And then he cites health care as one of them. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have already seen this today. I don't know about you, Chewy, but cervical screening is somewhere within the healthcare sector that I don't have access to because I don't need it. I'm excluded from it. And it's within one system having a separate setup for another group of people who need that setup. So this is where I start to go, well, how are we now drawing a line in the sand when he says co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders? That's why he's against co-governance. But prostate cancer is not designed for all New Zealanders. Yes, it's within a health system designed for all New Zealanders, but so is the Māori Health Authority.
Yeah.
Anything, sir?
I in broad strokes, I just don't see what he's afraid of. Like, we saw how effective Māori groups could be in a healthcare setting when they just said, give us the money and let us reach our people. And they did. Like, vaccination rates within Māori were really low until basically they just went out with vans to marae and started talking to the community to get things done. That's what National's all about, getting things done. So give it to the people that are getting it done.
Well, we're going to get into that as well, because the thing that's most confusing about this conversation is, and not to sort of get ahead of ourselves, but when he gets asked, are you okay with iwi providing their own health services and the public funding it? He says, that's what I'm talking about. What's the Māori Health Authority? But look, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Let us continue.
Okay with the park and the hut, that's cool. Co-governance of the Waikato River, you're fine with that too.
Yep.
That's working
I think those arrangements have worked really well.
So co-governance of natural resources like that, you're okay with. What is the difference? So would you say then, in regards to the Waikato River, that you are in support of the co-governance of natural resources like that?
Yeah. So
So what's the difference between that natural resource and Three Waters?
Yeah. So essentially, those natural resource those co-governance arrangements around local natural resources have often been done in the context of Article 2 of the treaty, which is fantastic, and we support that, and that's been positive, I think, by and large. What I'm talking about, though, is that actually having separate healthcare systems, education systems, justice systems.
But that's the hang on.
That is the delivery of public.
So this is now the line National's trying to sow. That's a fantastic freeze frame. That it's a separate health system. Now, he talks about Hangareo and that working within the current education system, but he's talking about we don't want to set up a separate system. Now, Ryan Bridge, again, credit where credit's due, just eliminates this altogether in a sec when he points out that the overall healthcare system is a $15 billion industry. The Māori Health Authority is worth about $150 million. There's no way that they're setting up their own healthcare system for $150 million out of $15 billion What's that? That's 1%, 150 million? Because 1.5 billion would be 10 years. So it's 1%. So it's 1% of the health budget. And Christopher Luxon's trying to sow the seed that we don't want to have separate health systems for different people. Although within the system, he's okay with within the system there being, specialist areas even for and by Māori, but he doesn't want a different health system for and by Māori. Like
that's good, because that's not what he's going to get, is it?
Exactly.
I noticed that he chucked justice in there as well, and like in all of these cases when there's been trials of increasing Māori participation, Māori leadership in these areas for Māori, they've seen better results in pretty much every circumstance. We've had everybody's the same healthcare system for 50 years.
Yeah.
Longer. And what all that has delivered is atrocious outcomes for Māori. So if it's not working, let's not do it anymore. Let's
be clear, right? It's not just atrocious outcomes for Māori. There are other groups of people who have atrocious outcomes for them as well. However, we have a contractual arrangement with Māori to deliver something to them, right? That doesn't mean that we ignore the health issues with Pacifica or with, disabled people or any other group as well. But we actually have a contractual agreement that needs to be abided by at the moment. Now, if in 10, 500, 5,000 years from now, that agreement changes, that's fine. But we currently have a contract, right, known as the Treaty of Waitangi. And that means, yes, we are a multicultural country with multicultural needs to be provided, but we're basing all that on a bicultural agreement. So actually, the Māori Health Authority speaks to what the contractual agreement we have as well with Māori. Now, some people may not like that. They might go, well, gosh, what does that mean to Māori? How do we decide that? Well, that's actually what they're in the process of doing. How you don't decide that is to go, fuck it, you can be like us. When being like us is not working, all you got to have a look at is the 9 years life expectancy less Māori have from the general population. Something needs to be done differently. There is a sector of society who needs more and something specifically done to help them in health. The Labour government is calling that the Māori Health Authority. The national government is like, just let's keep on going with what we had in the past. Ignore that, which isn't working. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll keep going, yeah? Keep going.
Services.
But let's take three waters. Let's take three waters. You're okay with the co-governance of a particular body of water, but not national bodies of water. Why?
No, what we're talking about with respect to Three Waters, that is about infrastructure. That is about pipes and the management of stormwater, wastewater, fresh water, and that's a different issue.
So, Waikato River, that all those things apply to the Waikato River, right? There are pipes that go in and out of the Waikato River. They have to worry about fresh water. They have to worry about sewage. All those things on some level are handled co-governance via the Waikato River. So now he's red herring it. He's almost gaslighting it because he's saying that doesn't apply to that at all, where it does. It may not apply to it as clearly and as much because Three Waters is about pretty much pipes and pipes alone, but pipes, which is his infrastructure issue, are also contained within the Waikato River. So it's gaslighting to say it's got nothing to do with it. It's completely different. It's factually inaccurate.
In the sense of those assets paid for by local government, local citizens and ratepayers, they should be returned to them, and there isn't a role for co-governance in that kind of conversation.
And this is the other question that we often say, using our lovely friends at Ngor as an example. So he says that the locals have paid for it, the locals could get the benefit from it. So, Mr. Luxon, here's my question. What happens in Ngor and any other country, any other area where $300 million needs to be invested to bring that infrastructure up to code? If you're saying it's all about the locals putting their money into it, therefore are you also saying that if money needs to be put in, it's got to be on the backs of the locals? Because what that means is $50,000 over 10 years per ratepayer in Ngor. What's your solution for that, Mr. Luxon? Because to me it seems obvious that's going to have to be centralized, but you're saying here right now saying it can't be centralized. So what is it?
It's an argument that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like the government's not going to come in and rip up the pipes and take them away from us, start from scratch again. Like, people don't think about their pipes. They think about their rates. They think about their taxes. And by replicating all of the same thing right throughout every council in the country sounds awfully inefficient to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. And look, we'll say it again. Not carrying water for anyone. I think the idea, the concept of Three Waters is good. The execution of Three Waters is shithouse. And the communication of Three Waters is shithouse. The idea, and Gore's your perfect example, that's going to be centralized. You in North Canterbury, you in Waikato, you in Wellington, you in Auckland are going to be paying for Gore's infrastructure. So following Mr. Luxon's example, you shouldn't be. Gore, go fuck yourself. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. Because the other thing about Gore, right, that's right next door to Balclutha. Right, thing about Balclutha is it's right next door to Dunedin, and it's right next door to Southland. It's right next door to Queensland. So if Gore is this little third world country with their infrastructure, because under national, locals have to look after it, that is going to flow on to other regions. Now, I'm saying Gore because I know about our local stuff. Wherever you are, you will have a neighbor, or you will have a neighbor to a neighbor who is in the same boat. And if they've got lead in their pipes, if they've got Campylobacter going through their pipes, what, do you think the water's just going to stop where the pipes meet your boundary? So it stops there because our infrastructure is fine. Of course not. It's ridiculous. Right, we'll keep going.
What we're talking about is the delivery of co-governance of public services. And that's what I came to Ratana yesterday, and it was raised with me at Ratana, and I thought it would be disingenuous not to say what we think about that.
Okay. So
we can, because my argument's very simple, is public services are designed for all New Zealanders. We have one government. They deliver a public service to all New Zealanders in need. That's the basis for what we do.
But does a river not provide a public service?
But within that one system, we can target, say, for example, Kura and Karangareo schools will still exist, but we do it within the coherence of one education system, not two separate education systems.
So there you go. There's education system for Māori that he's happy to support, which is separate from who it's providing for. It's run by Māori for Māori, but because it comes under the Ministry of Education, he's okay. So basically what he's saying is if the Māori Health Authority, if he's consistent, was run by Māori for Māori under the current health system, it would be okay. Guess what? It's under the current health system. What is your point, Humpty Dumpty?
The point is he's trying to blow on a dog whistle as much as he can because he knows a big chunk of his party support doesn't like this stuff. And he's trying to walk, I think, a personal line that he doesn't have as much of a problem with Māori as some of his supporters do.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, so do you think that a separate health system is being created in the development of the Māori Health Authority?
Correct. So I see that as two separate systems, and that's why I think that the Māori...
Notice the language, though. I see that as two separate systems. That's very different from it's two separate systems. I see you and me as friends, Chewy. You may see it very differently. I see us as quality broadcasters. Most of the media in the world may see it very differently. You know what I'm saying? So he either picked that very carefully or he came across it by luck. But Mr. Luxon sees it as two separate entities. Doesn't mean that it is two separate entities.
Health Authority should be scrapped.
Okay, so the Māori Health Authority, as you'll be aware, has iwi Māori partnership boards. Do you know what they do?
Yes, and they exist, that you can have iwi partnership boards that exist within the current one healthcare system or one Ministry of Health as it is today.
But there's not going to be a separate hospital for Māori.
No, but there is.
So it's not going to be a separate health system.
Yeah, but that's where the clarity.
Do you know what the budget is for health versus Māori Health Authority?
I don't know.
It's $15 billion for the health system, and about 168 million is all they've allocated so far for the Māori Health Authority. It's hardly a separate health system.
All I'm saying to you very clearly,
1%, and Mr. Luxon gets challenged with that, and what's his response? All he's got is the.
I think I've been very clear. I've said very clearly. Point. I have to repeat myself because I've said this so clearly because
so
I'm good at politics.
You listen to this question and the response when Ryan Bridge says it's hardly this, and his response is the talking point. It's completely ignoring the question and not engaging. It's the talking point.
For health system.
All I'm saying to you very clearly is that in the delivery of public services, we should not have two systems, two separate systems. We should have one system. We can have innovation within that, deliver those services by Māori, for Māori.
But why is it okay for a river?
Okay. Really important point there. Listen to this again.
Services by Māori, for Māori.
Why is it okay for a river?
So, Let me read this to you because I jotted it down. Just think about what the Māori Health Authority is, yeah? He's against that. But what he's okay with is innovations within the health system delivered by Māori for Māori. Innovations within the health system delivered by Māori for Māori. So Luxon's for that, but he's against the Māori Health Authority. Christopher Luxon is for innovations within the health system delivered by Māori for Māori. He even gets to a point in a second where Ryan Bridge says to him, so let's cancel the Māori Health Authority, but then we can still allocate that $168 million to Māori. And he says, yes. So it's not the money. It's not the Māori who are delivering it for Māori. It's that he's trying to sell some kind of bullshit lie that it's a second health system, and that it's also that Labor bad. That's the argument. That's it.
If he's going to bang this drum for separatism, it's the same drum that Seymour's banging.
And
I
remember,
don't like it.
And remember, it's this man who claimed the conversation around co-governance is immature and divisive and has nothing to do with them. This man that we're listening to right now, that we're going to keep listening to, and I apologize for that.
Why is it okay for a park and not for the health system?
Well,
what is the fundamental difference?
Well, the government hasn't made the case for that. You know, they haven't made the case.
What's
because
the case
public
against it?
So the public services are designed for all New Zealanders
we'll
to
go past that one.
New Zealanders and support New Zealanders on the basis of need. And so what we want to be able to do is target those needs, meet those needs within one system.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Yeah. So if the need is Māori, for example, dying 9 years earlier, how do you do that, Mr. Luxon?
To schools, for example, within an education system, but it's within the confines of one.
Okay, all right. So here's an example then. So let's say we keep the health system as it is, but because presumably you want to address the 7-year inequity in terms of lifespan between
absolutely.
Okay, absolutely. So we've got the health system as it is, and then would you be okay with then iwi providing their own health services and being funded by the taxpayer to do that?
They do that in many cases today within the existing system.
Cranking it up.
That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely, because
I'm losing my mind.
Okay, you ready? Remember what I just said there?
My mind.
Sure, you might have been having a seizure at the time.
I am currently
Christopher Luxon just said, that's what I'm talking about, when he was asked, are you okay with iwi providing their own health services and having the public funded? And his response was, that's what I'm talking about. So he's okay with iwi providing health needs for Māori, being funded by the public, but he's cancelling the Māori Health Authority.
Right. Good. Yes. No, he's been very clear on that.
We'll keep going.
So is that not so?
Because what I'm trying to say to you is, look, I'm interested in outcomes, right? Really strongly. We have real challenges around, Māori health outcomes. Fully understand that. But over the last 5 years, this government has not delivered a single improved Māori health outcome.
Understand that.
And under the Māori Health Authority, by its own admission, it's saying for another 5 years it won't deliver an improved outcome. Okay. A decade of no.
Look, I want to give credit where credit's due. Credit where credit's due. Yeah, but this is the thing, right? And let's say V Bunch said Ryan finally brought his brain into the studio today. Yay, at last. However, trends within the health system, and this is not an excuse, you will not see a change within a trend within a health system over 5 years, right? And what Mr. Luxon is saying is, in 5 years, there's been no improvements. I actually disagree with that significantly, but we can get into that another night. But let's go with it. Therefore, the question, Ryan, is, what differences will we see in your first 5 years as government? If you are criticizing the incumbents because there's been no health outcome benefits in 5 years, what are you going to guarantee this country that we will see with Māori healthcare under your system in the first 5 years? And if you don't get it, will you resign? Because he's basically saying they haven't done shit in 5 years. So what that implies is we will. Because obviously if you're saying they haven't done shit and you're going to go, nah, we're not going to do shit either, there's no talking point there. So he's implying we will.
It's
so
just such
what
a
will
weird
you do?
position they're taking is that Labor have not done anything, but we're going to undo everything that they've done. And and it's all outcomes of 5-year plans from Comrade Luxon. It's just so bizarre.
You can't call him comrade.
Well, if he's talking about a 5-year plan, a little man called Stalin had the same idea. So, you know, it's you're right. Outcomes are from the health system are on such a long timeline. You're talking almost generational change we're aiming for.
Of course. Now, maybe some of this comes back to messaging, and maybe the Māori Health Authority, if indeed they have said you won't see anything in 5 years, is not the best way to say it. Maybe without giving that time frame, you could say it's a long-term plan. But whatever. Let's get the last 60 seconds of this and see where we go. I can't remember actually. I think I've read on my notes. So let's just enjoy the last 60 seconds of this delightful interaction together.
Improved outcomes is unacceptable. Now, we can have one healthcare system that actually targets people on the basis of need, and that may be through the use of other community organisations as well as Māori or iwi organisations.
Is the money that would otherwise be spent on the Māori Health Authority, you will take that money and you will give that to iwi to deliver health services?
Absolutely, because what I'm really...
So there's at least $170 million from your...
Yeah, but remember, that means he's not arguing the money. No. So that has to be clear. No, he's not arguing it's a waste of money to spend 170 on Māori health needs, because he just said
arguing
big
the
time.
Logo.
Yeah.
He's arguing the logo and the branding. Seems to be his only objection.
Yes, preach it. That's exactly, you got it spot on there. He's arguing the logo, 100%.
Budget that you will be giving to iwi to deliver health services.
Yeah, because I come from a different place, which is that I think that actually delivering those services, there's not one mode of delivery out of Wellington that has to deliver those services. Actually delivering those...
This is the other bullshit. I guarantee you, if you have a look at the Māori Health Authority, there's no like 0.7.4. We will have one version of delivery and it'll only come out of central. Okay, do you know what comes out of central Wellington? Funding for the police. Is there one mode of delivery, or in each region, do they approach it the best way for that region? You know, the kids in your school, the grandkids in your schools, funding comes from central government. Do you think in every single school it comes out exactly the same, or do they provide the need for the kids that are in front of them? So this is just a bullshit talking point, and I'm fucking over it. I'm over it big time.
Services through community organisations that are closest to the people and to the challenges that are on the ground is the right way to do it. At the moment, so much of our money is lost in the bureaucracy of Wellington. Okay. Our healthcare money at the moment is being spent building mega bureaucracies in Wellington, when we believe in localism and devolution, and those closest to it should deploy it and actually deliver it. I think, you know, you've got community organisations that can deliver food lunch programs into schools much better than Wellington can. Yep. I think Māori health organisations can actually deliver Māori health services a lot better than what the government can do centrally through Wellington.
I did a piece last year, which was Christopher Luxon is coming for your school lunches. You hear what he just said? So in other words, central government can't deliver school lunches to schools, but local bodies can. So therefore, central government will cancel it, and then all of a sudden there'll be some people left without it.
Yeah. So some schools will get it and others won't. And it's just like this pushback against this monolithic Wellington-based bureaucracy that they seem to be conjuring out of the bad old days of the 70s is just so tired. We have tried neoliberal public-private
claptrap.
Public-private cooperation. Well, let's get the businesses know how to run this better, so we'll just pay for more consultants, and we'll pay a private company to do it and make profit. It's like, I want to go the other way. Bring back the Ministry of Works.
I want to just finish up again with just actually reiterating what we've just seen, right? We've seen Mr. Luxon say he is for innovations within the health sector, and those systems can be delivered by Māori for Māori. He's for that. He is okay. In fact, he's more than okay with iwi providing their own health services and the public funding it. In fact, when that point got brought up in this, he said, "That's what I'm talking about," and got all a little bit of sweat running on the side of his face, right? However, he is going to cancel the Māori Health Authority.
Yeah.
because he's selling some kind of strange idea that a Māori health funding that makes up 1% of their overall health budget is going to use that 1% to start up their own health system. Ooh, he is okay with Kohanga Reo and other Māori schools because they come under the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. Sorry, he's trying to sell the boogeyman thing that the Māori Health Authority won't come under the health system. It is, it will. It's completely hypocritical. He's not a moron. He's gaslighting, 100% gaslighting and dog whistling.
I'm just. Oh God, I need figures to back this up. Hang on. This is a little bit out of left field, but there might be a particular iwi that he's forgetting, or a tribe that he's forgetting. They get $4,898 million in government funding,
right?
Every year. Do you know what tribe or iwi that is? New Zealand Defence Forces.
Right.
The army is actually a tribe. I'd love to see someone swing that on them.
Wow. Interesting thoughts.
But yeah, look, I hope someone in Labour is sitting down and writing this down as you have, Pat, and is just putting that in front of Chippy and going, right, so the debates are coming up. Fucking nail him to the wall with this.
I've approached Chippy, said, come on our show. Thank you to Kooky Nick for the super chat. I know we've already put it up once, but we didn't acknowledge you, Kookster.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Kooky put that up when we were talking about what we're talking about now. So obviously what Kooky is saying is what we're saying, and this is actually not about us, because anyone with half a brain, and between us, we probably only have half a brain, can see this so clearly, is that this is not rocket science. But what we need to do, and this is, I guess, part of the reason we do this job, is jobs normally involve salaries or some kind of income. Is one of the reasons we do this. I firmly believe that we want to lead horses to water. We can't make you drink, but we can take you there and we can say, look at that water. You know, you can take people to the water and say, here's the water here. And I would potentially advise you against maybe using the kind of vernacular we do, but Luxon's full of shit because he wants the Māori Health Authority while he's cancelling the Māori Health Authority. I had an example. I had this guy called Dave Rubin on my podcast. Dave Rubin is a right-wing commentator out of America. And it's one of the times my other podcast got picked up by a bunch of media outlets in America. And I had him, and I was talking to him, Dave Rubin, about our health system. And I was saying, you know, what we do is we go into a chemist and we spend $5, and no matter what our ailment is or whatever, we get our asthma puffer or we get our, you know, whatever medicine we need, it's $5 and this, that, and that. And we break our arm and we go into the A&E and we walk out without a bill. And he says, oh yeah, I'd be okay with that. A group called Sam Cedar, Majority Report, picked up on the video. And what I missed at the time, which they picked up on because they're more into the intertwined part of American politics, was I had described Obamacare, and Dave Rubin had said yes to Obamacare. Now, every other broadcast, Dave Rubin was screaming out against Obamacare, but unwittingly, I described Obamacare, and Dave Rubin said yes to it. What Christopher Luxon is doing with what he says he wants is he's describing the Māori Health Authority whilst he's saying we're going to cancel the Māori Health Authority. Yep, that's what he's doing. And it's and that cup of water that we've put out there today, you can offer to other people. And really, you sort of need to.
Yep, 100%.
I think I'm off my soapbox now, Chewy.
No, it's a good soapbox. God, he makes me angry. Like I'm just thinking, like, there's always an election drinking game, right? From the debates. And we're definitely going to be doing that live on this show. But if someone doesn't drink when he says, I think I've been very clear on this, I'm going to die. I will have to pre-book an ambulance.
We need to start writing down squeezed middle. Devolution is a new one. We need to start writing down our drinking game our drinking game words.
Oh yes, we need to workshop this.
And
Chat,
so
hit us
any
with
of
your
the
best
words that come
bingo
up,
boxes.
don't do it tonight. And we'll do our bingo boxes. And when the election things come along, we'll do a drinking game. And we'll find them and we'll consequences is Kooky straight away.
Dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
I think if we go with consequences for the drinking game, we might have to come up with it's on the third consequence because we'll probably say it so many times. Maybe the third consequence is like consume, off you go.
Oh my god.
So don't give us the ideas now, guys, because we won't have them for when it comes. We'll start to jot them down. Go to the Facebook page and message us if you've got any words that are those. But it's the same for Labour. No, it's the same.
We'll put up a poll on Facebook.
No, we got to have 12 for each of them. It's Labour as well. We got to get schnozzled. Mate, I haven't been drunk since I was in my 20s, early 20s.
Well, brace yourself because it sounds like we're going to get our stomach pumped at this rate.
All right. I'll have to count my calories that day like nothing else, won't
I? Vodka, it's got none.
Okay. Oh, I've got a good Central Otago vodka over here. Where is it? There it is. You'll have to come over here, Chewy. We'll have to do it from here. The Reed single malt vodka. It smells of banana. Ooh. I'm not a huge fan of vodka, but this one smells of banana. It's a good one.
I have a Soviet branded vodka here somewhere.
A real potato vodka, yeah.
I could roll with this.
All right.
Salted caramel whiskey.
As long as you and your missus are keen on it, we'll do it around here. We'll watch it together and we'll bring you all on board. Look, we're starting to plan the show 10 months from now. So let's just chill on that and let's go home now and go to bed. Seeing we've been going for an hour and 20. This is our shortest ever hour-long show. All right, guys.
Cheers, chat. You've been great.
Yeah, remember if you're joining us, if you're new to us, or if you're an oldie and you're coming back, that we are Monday to Thursday now, unless something comes up on Friday worthwhile us jumping back for. And I have actually approached Chris Hipkins for Friday night. I don't think we'll get him because I think everyone will get him, be asking him, but I've approached him for Friday night. Obviously, if we get him, we'll be here Friday night as well. However, the regular run of the show now goes Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till finish. And then back the following Monday. So chances are we'll see you tomorrow night for the last one of the week, unless I get some kind of notice from Chris Hipkins' office. We'll start to plan our when those words like devolution I've heard twice in 2 days. That's their new word, obviously. So that's one that's going to have to go down. We'll have to just start jotting them down, put them we'll open up a Word document and just start jotting them down when they come up, and then we'll pick 12 of them, and then there'll be our bingo cards for those nights. And what'll be funniest is if there's like a deputy debate, it's always interesting to see if the deputy uses the same words as the leader, because then it's actually the terms that they're trying to push through. It's the rote terms. Anyway. All right, guys, we're done. Anything you want to leave us on, Chewy? No, stop. I don't want you to tangent. Not tonight. I think we're done.
We've done tangents. I'm saving up my tangents for another night.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. We're going to go look in the swag bag now with Chewy, and we'll see you tomorrow. All right, team. Sure. Bye. Bye.
Chill.